Hello. Sending lots of love and warmth and hugs and good vibes from South Africa. And what am I doing now? Okay, I'm going to carry on with The Hidden Life of Trees. That's a book we've been reading, and the author is Peter Wohlleben. He's actually written quite a few books. But anyway, this one we're about halfway through, and we are at chapter 21, and the heading of that is Motherships of Biodiversity. So I think before I distract myself by talking about everything else before I start reading for 10 minutes, I'll just go right into it. Okay. Most animals that depend on trees don't harm them. They just use the trunks or the crowns as custom-built homes that offer small ecological niches, thanks to varying amounts of moisture and light. Innumerable specialists find places to live here. Little research has been done, particularly in the upper levels of the forest, because scientists need to use expensive cranes or scaffolds to check them out. To keep costs down, brutal methods are sometimes employed. And so in 2009, tree researcher Dr. Martin Gosner sprayed the oldest, 600 years old, and mightiest, 170 feet tall and 6 feet wide at chest height, tree in the Bavarian Forest National Park. The chemical he used, pyrethrum, is an insecticide which brought any number of spiders and insects tumbling down to the forest floor, dead. The lethal results show how species-rich life is way up high. The scientists counted 2,041 animals belonging to 257 different species. It's a pity they all were dead. Anyway, hopefully they didn't do that to too many 600-year-old trees. Gosh, hectic. Okay, tree crowns even contain specialized wetland habitats. Man, that's cool. When a trunk splits to form a fork, rainwater collects at the point where the trunk divides. This minuscule pool is home to tiny little flies that provide food for rare species of beetles. It's more difficult for animals to live in trunk cavities where water collects. The cavities are dark and murky. Moldy brew that lurks there contains very little oxygen. That's nice. Larvae that develop in water cannot breathe in places like that, unless, of course, they are endowed with snorkels, like the offspring of the bumblebee hoverfly. Thanks to breathing tubes that extend like telescopes, these larvae can survive here. Bacteria are almost the only thing stirring in these waters, so they are probably the larvae's food source. Not every tree is targeted by woodpeckers as a nesting site and doomed to gradual rot, and by no means do all slowly waste away, offering many specialized species hard-to-find habitats as they do so. Many trees die quickly. A storm might snap a mighty trunk, or bark beetles might destroy a tree's bark in a few short weeks, causing its leaves to wither and die. Then the ecosystem around the tree changes suddenly. Animals and fungi that are dependent on the tree pumping a steady supply of moisture through its veins or sugar to its crown must now leave the corpse or starve. A small world has come to an end, or has it just begun? Now to German sentence coming ahead. Brace yourselves for terribly pronunciated German. Und wenn man. Okay. Und wenn ich gehe. that is so wrong. Dan het nu in taal van muur. Oh my goodness. Okay. Und wenn ich gehe, dann geht nu ein Teil von mir. Oh man, that was so badly pronounced. But you know what? I'm not gonna edit that out. I don't like to edit any of my videos. I really don't like to do that. Which is why you've seen me make so many mistakes. And to me, you know, I think one of the reasons why I think I'm not going to go on a tangent for too long right now, but I think I think one of the reasons why I sort of don't try and edit out, you know, so-called mistakes or blah 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 that are quite literally very, very embarrassing. Like I would feel so self-conscious, and though I sort of am aware of the thoughts, it would then sort of come in the back of my mind, like very not nice critical commentary, and then I think, well, you know, in spite of those little pieces of ugly commentary that want to criticize me in my head, I'm gonna, you know, not edit out the mistake. I'm not gonna try and do the perfectionistic thing, and also I probably, you know, don't want a migraine from like picking apart every second of editing a video, or doing so for hours and then sort of becoming frustrated and pausing it or saving it as a draft only to start again and waste hours on doing that, when it could just be that I make a mistake, I'm very honest about it, and share a bit about my embarrassment on that, and random information, and now I'm going to stop. But here, you know, yeah, here is what that actually says in English. And when I go, only a part of me is gone. Yeah. This phrase, from a hit by a German pop singer, Peter Wohlleben, could have been written by a tree. Wow. For the dead trunk is as indispensable for the cycle of life in the forest as the live tree. For centuries, the tree sucked nutrients from the ground and stored them in its wood and bark, and now it is a precious resource for its children. But they don't have direct access to the delicacies contained in their dead parents. To access them, the youngsters need the help of other organisms. As soon as the snapped trunk hits the ground, the tree and its root system become the site of a culinary relay race for thousands of species of fungi and insects. Each is specialized for a particular stage of the decomposition process and for a particular part of the tree. That's interesting. And this is why these species can never pose a danger to a living tree. It would be much too fresh for them. Soft woody fibers and moist moldy cells, these are the things they find delicious. They take their sweet time over both their meals and their life cycles, as demonstrated by the stag beetle. The adult beetle lives for only a few weeks, just long enough to mate. This animal spends most of its life as a larva, which slowly eats its way through the crumbling roots of dead deciduous trees. It can take up to 8 years for it to get big and fat enough to pupate. Bracket fungus is similarly slow. It gets its name because it sticks out from the dead trunk like a shelf made from half a broken plate. The red-belt's conch is one example. It feeds on the white threads of cellulose in the wood, leaving brown crumbs as evidence of its meal. Its fruiting body, the aforementioned as Its fruiting body, the aforementioned broken plate, is attached to the trunk as a neat horizontal angle, at a neat horizontal angle. This is the only way it can ensure that its reproductive spores will trickle out of the small tubes and on its underside. If the rotten tree is attached to falls over in one day, the fungus seals the tubes and continues to grow at right angles to its former fruiting body so that it can form a new horizontal plate. Some fungi fight bitterly over feeding territory. You can see this clearly on dead wood that has been sawn into pieces. You'll find marbled structure of lighter and darker tissue clearly separated by black lines. The different shades indicate different species of fungus working their way through the wood. They wall off their territory from other species with the dark, impenetrable polymers, which look to us as though they are drawing battle lines. Oh, that's something to draw, like, sure. In total, a fifth of all animal and plant species, that's about 6,000 of the species we know about, depend on dead wood. As I've explained, dead wood is useful because of its role as a nutrient recycler, but it can also be a threat to the forest. After all, perhaps if there's not enough dead wood lying around, organisms might decide to eat live trees instead. I hear this concern voiced time and time again by people who come to visit the forest, and there are a few private forest owners who remove all dead trunks for exactly this reason. But this is neither a necessary nor a useful practice. All removing dead wood does is destroy valuable habitats, because live wood is of no use to organisms that live in dead wood. Live wood is not soft enough for them. It is too moist and it contains too much sugar. This is quite apart from the fact that beeches, oaks, and spruce defend themselves from colonization. Healthy trees growing in their natural range withstand almost all attacks if they are well nourished. And the amount of decomposers helps feed the living trees as long as the little guys can find a way to make their livelihoods. Sometimes deadwood is directly beneficial to trees. For example, when a dowed trunk serves as a cradle for its own young. Young spruce sprout particularly well in the dead bodies of their parents. Sure, that's a strong image. Wow. This is known as nurse long. Hello. This is known as nurse log production. Nurse log production in English, and somewhat gruesomely as Gadaververjüngung or cadaver rejuvenation in German. This soft, rotten wood stores water particularly well, and some of the nutrients it contains have already been released by fungi and insects. There's just one teeny problem. The trunk isn't a permanent replacement for soil, as it is constantly being degraded, until one day it disintegrates completely into humus on the forest floor. So what happens to the young trees then? Their roots are exposed and lose their support. But because the process plays out over decades, the roots follow the disintegrating wood into the forest floor. The trunks of spruce that grow up this way end up being elevated on stilts. The height of the stilts corresponds to the diameter of the nurse log on which they once lay. Yo, that's wow, sure. Okay. Oh. Yeah, I like that. That's basically almost everything in that chapter is something new that I learned. Okay, so this was a short video, so I might as well do the next one. See you in 2 seconds.